Today we're going to go ahead and start taking a look at Chapter 5. Okay, the first lesson of Chapter 5 is going to be working with algebraic expressions. As you know from doing the beginning pages of Chapter 5 and getting started and completing your RSGW, Chapter 5 is going to be focusing on expressions. Okay, and today we're looking at algebraic. Algebraic meaning that we're going to be working with numbers and variables. Okay, expressions meaning that there's not going to be any equal sign in it. So an example of an algebraic expression could be something as simple as 5n. Okay, if I write out 5n, that's the same as taking 5 times n, and that would be an example of an algebraic expression. Another one could be something as simple as n plus 2. Okay, your operation you have is addition, you've got a variable and a number. Okay, so again, those are just a couple examples of algebraic expressions and what they look like. First thing you're going to want to take a look at is your new vocabulary. Okay, you have 5 new words that are going to be in this lesson that we're going to be talking about as we go through. You've got the word variable. Remember, variable is going to be a letter or a symbol. Most of the time you're going to be working with letters that are lowercase, and I'll talk a little bit more about those later. Algebraic expression I talked a little bit about before. Remember, algebraic meaning you're going to be working with numbers and variables, and then expression meaning there's going to be operations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. May also have exponents with it. Algebra, okay, process of working with numbers, variables, operations. Coefficient, that is a new word. Okay, coefficient is going to be your number that comes ahead of your variable. So if I give you 6x, my actual coefficient is 6 because that's the number that comes ahead of the variable. Another example could be 2m plus 4. Okay, in 2n plus 4, 2 would be an example of your coefficient. And then down on the bottom, you've got defining a variable. Basically, that is just exactly what it is. You're going to identify what your variable is and what it represents. Okay, an example of that could be maybe I want to use H to represent hours, or I want to use W to represent weeks, or maybe M for months. Okay, and I would identify that that's what variable I'm using and what it's going to represent. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to page 350. A couple things we need to talk about here. One of the expectations that you guys are going to have is to evaluate. Evaluate, remember, means to solve for. Okay, so if I'm evaluating an algebraic expression, okay, remember in algebra you've got the branch of mathematics that is involving expressions. Okay, a couple examples that you're going to see here, you have 6d. Okay, well if I have 6d, that's an algebraic expression. It means the same as 6 times d. When you're writing these, you want to make sure that the number comes ahead of the variable. Okay, number should be written first. We don't want to write it as d6, we'd write it as 6d. 9st, same thing. It means I'm taking 9 times s times t. Okay, again, number comes first. Coefficient would be 9. Coefficient here is going to be 6. mn, that's the same as taking m times n. You don't actually see a number on those, but your actual coefficient on each of those would be 1. Okay, you've got 1m and 1n. Other example that they have here is a cubed, or a to the 3rd power. Same thing as a times a times a. So there's 4 examples up top of algebraic expressions and what they would look like. Okay, coefficient I talked about before, so we're going to talk a little bit about that again here. Okay, one of the things, like I had mentioned before, you guys are going to be evaluating or solving for. Okay, so I'm looking at 2 times n plus 3. Then they're going to tell you what they want the variable to equal. So in this case, they would like n to equal -4. So wherever there's an n, you're plugging in a -4 for that value. Okay, so you can see they're taking this expression, plugging in -4. So I'm thinking -4 plus 3, which would be the same as -1, and then I'm taking that times 2. Okay, well 2 times -1 is going to give me -2. So I've evaluated that, I've solved that expression. Okay, this example gives you a situation where you have 2 variables. We're looking at the expression of 8w minus 2v. They would like w to equal 5 and v to equal 3. Okay, again, wherever there's going to be a w, you're plugging in a 5. Wherever you have a v, you're plugging in a positive 3. Okay, so 8w, so 8 times 5 is going to be 30, or 40, excuse me, 8 times 5 is 40, minus 2 times 3, which would be 6. Remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, your order of operations. So we have to multiply first, then we're going to subtract. So 8 times 5 is 40, minus 6, and we would come up with 34. Another example, this one's a little bit different. You've got multiplication, you have an exponent, and you have addition. Okay, and they want y to equal 3. You have to be careful on this one because they have 4 times y cubed. You have to remember that just the y is being cubed. Okay, and in this case, they want y to equal 3. So you have to think to yourself, what's 3 cubed? Okay, or what's 3 times 3 times 3? So 3 cubed, or 3 times 3 times 3 would be 27. Then I'm going to multiply that by 4, and then I'm going to add 2. So 4 times 27 would be 108, plus 2 would give me 110. Couple practice problems for you to try on the bottom. I will do a couple with you, and then I'm going to ask that you pause the video and do a couple on your own. Okay? Taking a look at letter A, we have C minus 3. So C minus 3 would be the same as 8 minus 3. Because for C, they want me to plug in 8. 8 minus 3 is 5. Okay, looking at letter D here, 2 times C minus 4 times D. When you're working on these, you want to show what you're plugging in. Okay, rewrite it. So I'm going to take 2 times 8 minus 4 times negative 5. So 2 times 8 would give me 16, minus 4 times negative 5 would be a negative 20. Now if you remember back to adding and subtracting integers, and when you're subtracting a negative, that's the same as adding the opposite. So technically I'm thinking 20 plus 16, which would give me 36. And there's my answer for that one. Okay? 15 minus C. C is 8, so 15 minus 8, and that should equal 7. Okay, D minus C squared, so D, negative 5 minus C squared, so that's 8 squared. Okay, so I've got negative 5 minus 8 squared would be 64. I can rewrite that as negative 5 plus negative 64. These are both negative, so I'm going to add them together. 64 plus 5 would give me 69, and it's negative, so negative 69. Go ahead and pause your video right now and try C and F on your own, and then we'll come back and check. All right, as we take a look at letter C, you can see that I've plugged in the values for C and D. C is equal to 8 and D is equal to negative 5. Remember again, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, so I need to work inside my parentheses. A plus negative 5 would be negative 3, so technically I'm thinking 3 times negative 3, which should give me a negative 9. Then I can go ahead and take a look at letter F. I've plugged in the values. I'm going to work inside parentheses first. Negative 5 squared would be the same as negative 5 times negative 5. So I have positive 25 plus 5 times negative 5 would be negative 25. 2 times 25 would be 50 plus negative 25. And that would give us 50 minus 25 would be positive 25. Let's go ahead and take a look at the top of page 351. There's an example on the top of 351 that you can take a look. We'll be taking a look at the Got It problem practice problem on the top of page 351 real briefly here. We're looking at finding the area of a triangle. They give us the formula or the expression of b times h divided by 2. B represents our base, h is our height. We can see down here that they're giving us the height of 6 and the base of 8. So one of the things that we would do is plug in the values of 6 and 8 for our base and height. So I'm thinking 6 times 8, which would be 48, and then 48 divided by 2 would be 24. So what is our area in square inches? We would have 24 square inches. Okay. Next section of our lesson today is going to be writing expressions. The biggest thing with writing expressions is, number one, make sure you define what your variable is and why you're choosing that one. Okay. One of the things that we're going to look here is our example here. We know in words that we're saving $25 plus $10 each week. Okay, if I was to write out an expression here, okay, I know that I'm saving 25, so I'm thinking 25 plus $10 each week, or $10 per week. Most of the time when you see the word each or per, it's going to be multiplication in this case. So $10 each week, we're probably going to choose the variable W to use, and W would represent our number of weeks. When they're asking you to define your variable, what you're going to do is you're going to identify your variable, what you're choosing, and what it represents. So in this case, W is going to represent our number of weeks. Okay, when you guys write those in your book, it's fine just to put W, and then you can just put number of weeks, okay? Or you can write out the word number, it doesn't matter. But what I've done is I've defined my variable. I know I'm gonna use W and it's representing the number of weeks. So then continuing on with your expression, 25 plus 10 times W, okay? So another way to write that could be 10W plus 25, or 25 plus your 10W, okay? Those would both mean the same thing, all right? They talk a little bit more, they've explained that on the bottom of 351. They're giving you another example, example 6 on the top of 352. Wilmer's have saved enough money to buy the $150 DVD player in 11 weeks. Okay, so again, using your expression, I'm going to save it for 11 weeks, so I'm plugging in 11 for W, 10 times 11, 110 plus 25 would be 135. She needs to have $150, so does she have enough money? No, she does not. Okay, she'd have to work a few more hours each week. Okay, taking a look at letter H here, an MP3 player costs $70 and song downloads cost 85 cents each. Okay, this is kind of important here. We know 85 cents each, and the MP3 player is going to cost $70. We're supposed to write an expression looking at the cost of this. So I know I have to pay $70 plus 85 cents each for song downloaded. They're telling me that they want me to use X. Okay, so X is going to represent downloaded songs. So I'm defining my variable. I'm using X, and that's representing downloaded songs. Again, going back to my expression, I'm going to pay $70 plus 85 cents per song. So my new expression that I would look at would be 70 plus 85 cents times X. Okay. Then what I could do to find my total is I can go ahead and plug in 20 songs. So if I plug in 20 songs for X, or 20 for X, so you're thinking 20 times 85 cents plus 70, and when you plug that in and work through it, we should come up with $87. At this time right now, if you would go ahead and take a look at your computer or your website, or go ahead and turn to page 355, where your extra practice problems are, and take a look at your website so you know which ones you need to do specifically.